Hello, in this tutorial we're going to learn about the slope intercept form. The equation of the slope intercept form is y equals mx plus b. This is the slope intercept form where m equals the slope, and of course the slope is the steepness of a line, and b equals the y-intercept, which is the point where the graph of the line crosses the y-axis. The slope of the line is the coefficient of the x term, or the m. So whatever's in front of the x is your slope. The y-coordinate of the y-intercept is the constant term, which the constant term is your b. And what they mean by that is if we had the y-coordinate, x is always 0 at the y-coordinate, y-axis, y-intercept, sorry. And whatever number is in the y-coordinate, that becomes your b, or the constant term. So an example of this would be y equals 3x plus b. If we were looking for the slope, we would look for, like in this equation, the m, or the coefficient of the x term. The number in front of the x is a 3, so our slope would be 3. And if we're looking for the y-intercept, then we would look for the constant term. And in this case, the constant term that has no variable after it is 4. So it's either 4, or you could write it as 0, 4 if you're going to write an ordered pair. So the equation for a slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, or it's the change in the y over the change in the x. So we have a graph down here, and let's just say that that this point right here, we're going to say is 0, 1, and this point right here, we'll say is 3, 4. So 3, 4. And we need to find the slope of this line. Using our equation, we'll find that slope. So if we can label our points, we could name this x1, y1, x2, y2. And then our equation is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Our y2 would be our 4 minus, and our y1 is 1. So 4 minus 1 over our x2 is 3 minus, and 0 is our x1. So 4 minus 1 is 3, and 3 minus 0 is 3. And if we reduce this or simplify, we end up with 3 over 3 is just 1. So our slope in this equation, our slope would equal 1. So let's try one more. Let's say that this time our point right here, this time our point would be, let's say 0, 2, and let's say we have another point right here that ends up being 2, 1. We could label these like we did before. We could label these. So this would be our x1, y1. It doesn't matter how you label them, as long as you label them the same. So x2, y2, because this point could have been our x1, y1, and this could have been our x2, y2. So it doesn't matter how you label them, as long as they're the same. So using our equation, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, our y2 is 1 minus our y1, which is 2, and that's going to be over our x2, which is 2, minus our x1, which is 0. And if we subtract this, 1 minus 2 gives us a negative 1, and 2 minus 0 gives us a positive 2. So in this case, our slope is going to be a negative 1/2. And if you notice when we talked about slopes, reading left to right, if you notice this line has a negative slope, and that's why our slope is negative. This line has a positive slope because it's going uphill, and that's why it's positive. So you can remember that, positive, negative. The other thing with these two equations is, if you remember, we have our slope intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. If we are given 2 points, after we find our slope, we can actually put it into this equation. So we know that m stands for slope. So in this case, we would have y equals 1x, because 1 is our slope. And our y-intercept, again, is wherever x is 0, that would be our y-intercept. So in this case, point 1 would be our y-intercept, and we only use the y-coordinate of the intercept. That is our b. So we'd have plus 1. This could be rewritten as y equals x plus 1. So you really don't need the coefficient 1 in front of the variable x if it's just a 1. And in this equation, our slope intercept form would be, we found negative 1/2 as our slope, so y equals negative 1/2 x, and our b in this one was 0, 2. So our b would be just the 2, the y-coordinate of the y-intercept. So y equals negative 1/2 x plus 2. Now we're going to do just a couple examples to show you how you could get your slope in your y-intercept from the slope intercept form. So remember, your slope is whatever is in front of the coefficient in front of your x variable. So your variable, in this case, it would be 2. So our slope for this one would be 2. And the y-intercept is your b, which in this case would be 3. And remember, the y-intercept, x is always 0 at the y-intercept. So we would write it 0, 3. The next one, our coefficient in front of our variable is 3. The y-intercept is our b, which is 0, 9. And this one, the coefficient in front of our x is 2/3, so that's our slope. And our b is 2, so we would write 0, 2. And now in these, they give us the slope and the y-intercept, and we have to write the equation. So the slope intercept form for the first one would be y equals, and our slope is 3, so that goes in front of our variable x, and our coefficient, our y-intercept this time is a negative 3, so we would write minus 3. And the next one always starts out with y equals, so we got that. And 2/3 is our slope, so 2/3 would go in front of our variable. And 5 is our y-intercept, so our b is plus 5. And the next one, y equals negative 2 is our slope, so that goes in front of our variable. And negative 1 is our y-intercept, so that would go for our b. So that's how you would either find the slope or the y-intercept, or find the equation if you're given the slope and the y-intercept. And that concludes this tutorial. Hopefully you learned something, and we'll talk to you later in another video. Goodbye.